Happy Friday, everybody. How's it going today? Just getting everything set up here for our Friday live Q&A. See if we can get these microphones working. It's always fun to try new technology. There we go. That'll look fantastic. All right, cool. So we'll give everybody a couple minutes to log on here. Got a whole list of questions to discuss today, and you can feel free to populate your questions below as far as what you have a burning desire to understand. It's a beautiful Friday outside here in Minnesota. I'm not sure where you're all tuning in from, but it is pretty fantastic here, so hopefully we'll get outside and get some fresh air, enjoy the time. Let's hope the whole weekend's like this, right? Looks like Sarah and Kendra. Hi Kendra, hi Sarah. Got, looks like 2, 4, 6, 8, 11 questions. I know Kendra, of course, has always provided wonderful questions. I'm not sure if Kendra is in Madtown yet or if she's on her way, but safe travels to you guys on that trip. Kendra, I love the blue hair or green hair, whichever shade of color you have in your hair now. It looks fantastic, by the way. All right, sweet. So we'll just jump into our questions here. Those who are going to tune in, we're never exactly on the hour, so I'm sure it's hard for people to know exactly when we're going to pull the trigger on it, but for those of you who are on right now, you'll get the first word. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in below, and we'll go from there. First question for today's Friday live Q&A is dry brushing and coconut oil pulling beneficial for detoxification? So dry brushing, we'll start off with dry brushing. Dry brushing can be very beneficial for you. If you understand what dry brushing is meant to do, it's really intended to move toxins from the lymphatic tissues and from your peripheral tissues toward your body, toward the lymphatic ducts that drain, okay? So the right central lymphatic duct takes like the right arm and part of the right torso, and the whole rest of the body comes into the left thoracic duct, which is pretty intense as far as that side. But dry brushing, yes. As long as you have a healthy liver and you are well hydrated, and your body can handle the toxins that you're pushing to the detox pathways, dry brushing can be fantastic. Looks like Taylor joined us. How you doing, Taylor? Hope those allergies are getting better, buddy. But dry brushing can be very beneficial. So if you have, how to know if you have an adverse reaction to dry brushing? You want to make sure that if you're dry brushing and you have a sudden fit of sneezing or a headache, or let's see, a runny nose, coughing, or a bunch of phlegm in your throat, that might be an indication that you might not be ready to dry brush yet. Keep that in mind as you do that, because as we mentioned before, dry brushing can be beneficial, but if you're not ready for that, you're definitely going to overwhelm your system. So yes, dry brushing can be beneficial. Coconut oil pulling definitely can be beneficial. It's really great for balancing your oral flora. Your mouth bacteria and everything else that floats around in there, because Lord knows there's a lot of stuff in our mouths. But yes, you want to typically, what I'd suggest people do is swish the coconut oil, extra virgin coconut oil, unrefined, swish that around for a little bit. And then after a few minutes, some people say 3 minutes, some people say 5 minutes, some people 10 minutes. Spit it out and then brush your teeth typically, because then you're going to rinse all the excess laying around in the mouth. But it's just a really great way to freshen things up. You can do it 1 or 2 times a day, depending on what you're dealing with. If you have a lot of receding gums and stuff like that, we could talk about that. But receding gums is definitely an indication your digestive system is not healthy, so oil pulling would be a great first step. People with painful teeth, issues with the mouth in general, oral infections and the like, canker sores, cold sores, and cold sores are typically on the outside, but they can still be beneficial. But canker sores for sure, you want to pay attention to your acid-alkaline balance in your body. So yes, extra virgin coconut oil, unrefined, is great for oil pulling, and just swish around for some people can do a teaspoon, some people do a tablespoon, some people do like 2 tablespoons. You got to figure out like what the right amount is for you, because it can get pretty overwhelming. And some people are really nauseated by the taste of coconut, and or can have a gag reflex that can get triggered by it. Keep that in mind when you're doing oil boiling for the first time. Start small, do a teaspoon, see if that's enough. If you feel like it gets absorbed too much or too fast, then definitely up your dosage as far as 1, 2 teaspoons, 3 teaspoons, which is a tablespoon, things like that. Okay. What is better, niacin or niacinamide? That's our next question. So, niacin is vitamin B3. Now, there's a bunch of different forms, and we could go into a lot of nerdy biochemistry about this, and I'll see if I can get it straight. Niacinamide is what's produced from niacin. So, when you take in B3, vitamin B3, your body's going to produce niacinamide as a result. We typically don't provide niacin in a direct supplementation form because people tend to have a flush. They get a niacin flush. So what we use is Premier Niacin, and it's specifically designed to not flush. And there are fancy words like inositol hexanicotinate. That's really fancy verbiage for a compound that is derived from niacin, but is not going to make you flush. And if you don't know what a flush is, a niacin flush is like if my whole head turned like a cherry red tomato right now. That would be a niacin flush. So that we don't want to do that. That means you're getting a lot of vasodilation. Vasodilation means all your blood vessels go from skinny to as big as they can get. And that's in order to, if you think about it, your blood vessels dilate when you're hot in order to move things through faster and cool you down faster, and it dissipates heat faster. So all your pores open up in your skin, you perspire and things like that. That's what is going to happen. So if you get a niacin flush, it shouldn't last very long. And as a result of knowing that, you shouldn't be alarmed by it. Typically, sometimes people have to take niacin or other B vitamin complexes with food because it can be very challenging on their digestive system, and or it can even at times cause hives, which is basically an adrenal response. So there's not really a good, bad, or indifferent. Basically, if you can take niacin direct without flushing, fantastic. Your body's going to produce niacinamide from niacin. We prefer the inositol form. You figure out what works best for you. Okay? Let's see. Okay, so what are sprint sets and how do I do them? So I believe this is a Kendra question. So Kendra, thank you for the question. Sprint sets. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. You could do a Tabata, so you do like 20 seconds on, 20 and 10 seconds off of an exercise and do 4 sets and then repeat that several times. That's going to be a good way to do it. Hi, Deb. And so what I do is I do what's called Peak 8, and I think I mentioned this last week or the week before, I forget when, but Peak 8 is a system, and it was probably not originated or developed by Dr. Mercola, but he's one that brought it to my attention and popularized it. It's basically 3 minutes of warm-up, and that can be whatever you want. I typically walk briskly for 3 minutes, and then I alternate 30 seconds all-out sprint, and 90 seconds recovery. And you can do that walking or jogging or a combination of both. So when I know my timer's counting down, hi Grisha, I look at, okay, when I know I'm getting close to my sprint interval, I'll walk briskly, more briskly, then I'll start jogging, and then when the timer goes for that 30-second burst, and I'm full out, okay? And it's kind of funny, but the one time this occurred to me, and this may not work for you, but it's kind of like, think of yourself in a scary movie, right? In a horror movie. And I thought to myself, one morning I was jogging, it was fall, and it was springtime, fall time. Some of them was crisp and cool. It was probably fall because there wasn't snow on the ground. But it was dark. I mean, so you're talking, I'm up at dark 30, 4:45, 5 o'clock. And I'm out, jogging this trail, doing my sprint intervals. And over by where I used to live, Dancing Waters, there's a path that goes up into these trees. And it's dark, and my logical brain says, there's nothing scary, you're not afraid of anything. But then, of course, your primordial brain, your reptilian brain says, oh, you should run and hide or run for your life. But it occurred to me, like, if I want to get the most out of my sprint intervals, I want to run like literally someone's chasing me to try and, take me down. So that's how I get my sprints going. I literally sprint as fast as I can. And I try to be as winded as possible at the end of that. It's not like holding it back. I'm not trying to go 75%, 80%. I'm literally 30 seconds, I'm going as hard as I can. Now, you're going to get a peak speed, and then you're going to slow it down because your body can only maintain that speed for so long unless you're a trained professional sprinter, and even at that point they can only hold it for so long. So I would strongly encourage Kendra, if you're looking at sprint systems, look at Peak 8 P-E-A-K, like a peak of a mountain, and then 8, the number 8. And that's going to be 3 minutes of warm-up, 8 intervals of alternating 30 second, 90 second, 30 second, 90 second, 8 of those, and then 3-minute cool down. And so you're going to be done in 20 minutes, and that's going to last you hours. It's going to boost your metabolism, your growth hormone, your testosterone, which ladies need as well for lean muscle tissues and things like that. I mean, it's going to boost your metabolism for hours on end. So, I mean, there are a few things that I can think of that give you more mental clarity than that quick burst of just 20 minutes of exercise. So, strongly encourage you to do those. Do not jog. I would strongly encourage you to avoid jogging. That just seems like a terrible idea. I know some people love it, and it feels good, but if you're running / jogging, or if you throw your clogs on, you're clogging, you're going to be out there doing it for more than 5 miles, or 3 miles actually, 5K, then you're doing it for something other than exercise. All right, moving on. What can you take to prevent bug bites? What can you take to heal bug bites? Fantastic. So, in this little cup here, which says proceed as if success is inevitable, I won't try to tip my cup far enough. Maybe you can kind of see in there, it's orange. This is Max B. Okay, these are methylated B vitamins. Excuse me, I said fermented. It is a fermented concoction. It's a fermented nano detox, but this is methylated B vitamins that when you get in your system, your body absorbs them like it's like a flash, like boom. It's like putting gas on a fire. Your body sucks it up and they go right to work. Your body does not have to break them down and methylate them in order for you to access them, which is what happens typically when you take a capsule and it goes down to your gut and it breaks down your gut and you create the methylated byproducts in your gut, and then your liver uses those to detoxify, things like that. So drinking this is a natural bug repellent. You can ask my wife about this because when we go camping, the bugs love her and they don't touch me because this comes out of your pores and it is like a natural bug repellent. So high dose B vitamins of any form, Max B is my preference. That would be one way to do it. You can also take homeopathics. We have access to ones called Bug Bouncer. We also have homeopathics for insect bites and things like that. So what you want to appreciate is warding them off. You can use, there's a product called Thermacell. So if you want to avoid things like that, yeah, true story, right? Exactly. If you want to avoid bugs, go get like Menards or Home Depot or Dick's or something like that, or even order on the internet. But if you can support local, support local. But it's called Thermacell, Thermacell, Thermacell. And it's this little thing you hold in your hands, and you set it on you can buy a holster for it, you can set it on a camp chair, you can set it on the rocks next to you, wherever, but it effervesces, right? So there's a little, not propane, but a little gas cartridge in there, and it's like a little Bunsen burner. Like you hit the button, it lights, and then it heats this plate, and that plate heats. It's almost like one of those things you put in your vent in your car when the hot air blows and it warms it up, or the things you plug in the outlet in your house. Don't ever use those, by the way, they're completely toxic. But it heats this up and it effervesces, and it's not like citronella, it doesn't smell like citronella, but it works way better than citronella, I can tell you that. So I remember the first time I went to the Boundary Waters, and if you've ever been to the Boundary Waters, there are mosquitoes big as birds. So the first time I went up there, I literally bathed myself in this DEET concoction, which I'm sure I had to detox for months after that. But I remember sitting out on, I was doing some night fishing on a canoe, and I stood up and I had a headlamp on, but I didn't have it on, and I had the DEET on, and I could literally hear this bzzz around me, and I'm like, holy crap, what is that? So I flip on the lamp, and these bugs were like 10 inches away from me. They were everywhere. It was like you see a light outside of somebody's house in the summer, and all the bugs are just flying around, and it's just crazy. That's what it was around everywhere, okay? The reason I tell you that is because you don't have to put DEET on your body, okay? Get a Thermacell, which is not a very price prohibitive concept. It's like $20, I think, and then the cartridges are like, I don't know, $5 for a 4-pack, something like that. You could probably get an infomercial or a Groupon about it. But I went up there the next year with that, and I didn't put a single drop of DEET or any bug repellent on me. So word to the wise, get Thermacell. It's absolutely the best thing you'll ever do as far as bug repellents. When you do get bit, what you can do is you can put, if you get really bit up, I mean, we have Medibody packs. So Medibody packs are really good because you mix up the mud. If you haven't seen it, we've done videos on how to do it on your injury sites on your body. But generally speaking, you can mix up some and then put it on bug bites wherever it is, okay? It washes right off. It's just like dirt. I mean, it literally is dirt, but it's a special kind of dirt. And that will suck the toxins out of those bug bites so they don't continue to affect your body. More importantly is to make sure your insides are cleansed out so that you can detoxify the toxins out of your body. Because if you have things that linger, if you have cuts that linger, if you have scrapes that linger or bug bites that linger and your body's not healing that well, depending on where it is on your body, it could relate to some type of disconnect between your brain and your body as far as your inability to heal that tissue. That's an underlying issue, neuroemotional stresses and stuff like that, which you hear us talk about all the time. And or most likely the fact that your body's not detoxifying. I mean, there's a guaranteed connection between the two of them, but if you're ever curious about which area of your body you have a problem with and you want some information about that, just let us know, send us a text, DM us, whatever it is. All right, so putting mud on it, you can put hydrocortisone creams on there and stuff like that, but that's not good for you. You can put silver on there. Silver's great. We use Smart Silver. You can get it in gel. There's also Curad. They call it Germ Shield now. It used to be called Curad Silver Solutions. I think it's called Germ Shield now. That stuff's fantastic. Before we had Smart Silver from Desbio, we used Curad, and we still use Curad at times on Sophia. Last night Mom calls for her and she comes tearing out of the neighbor's driveway, just eats it, just too fast for her feet, falls down, takes her face on the ground, hits her bike, totally tears up her knee. I mean, you gotta love kids, man. She's just an animal. Anyway, you definitely need some silver around, because don't put Neosporin on it. I remember the last time I used Neosporin, I was down in Madison where Kendra and Anissa and some other people are going, but I skinned up my toes and I was doing capoeira in the streets, and I literally, if you imagine this is my toe, I peeled the flesh off both the big toes. It was not fun. So I went down to your local CVS or Walgreens and I grabbed some Neosporin and some Band-Aids, and I'm like, oh, this will be fine. And I'd used Neosporin for years, my entire life from my recollection. But for whatever reason, I put that stuff on my toes, and I had I don't know if anaphylactic. I had a massive allergic reaction. I remember we were driving to the restaurant we were going to, and I started getting all sweaty and like, oh man, something's just not right. Get in the restaurant, we're sitting there trying to have a drink and just relax. I'm getting a little bit, a little lightheaded. I turned to the bathroom, splashed some water on my face. It's like one of those fires you can't put out. Eventually, we had to go next to this restaurant and go to the gas station. Needless to say, we got in there, and it wasn't early enough. I wasn't soon enough. I didn't get the Benadryl fast enough, because I literally I was like, I told my buddy James at that time, I was like, dude, I'm going down. So I just laid down on the floor in the gas station, from what I recall. Or maybe I got onto the curb or something like that. But I was in a pool of sweat. And ambulance came. They tried to cart me off, and I said, no thanks. But moral of the story, use silver. Do not use Neosporin. That stuff is no good for you. Think about silver as balancing your microbiome, and think of Neosporin as killing. Okay, you don't want to kill anything. These bugs are there for a reason. You just need to have them balanced. Okay, so I digress. Got a little bit of tangent, a couple tangents there. All right. So what makes a good prenatal? Is folic acid even good for you? Absolutely. So what we use is we're in the process of formulating our own, but right now we're using Everyday Essentials from Nutridyne, Nutrition Dynamics. So Everyday Essentials prenatal, Everyday Essentials pregnancy. And yes, absolutely, prenatals are really important for mothers who are either expecting and or carrying a baby and or after they have the baby. Because the woman's body needs very specific things. Folic acid is one of them, folate being the form that they typically put. So that's why they have a lot of fortified breads or fortified grains and things like that. They put folate in it, because what happens if you don't have enough folic acid, you can have the fetus have what's called a neural tube defect, okay? And there's some nasty pictures on the internet if you want to look at just neural tube defects. I mean, once you've studied embryology, when I was studying embryology in school and for my doctorate, it was like, how did any of us survive? Insane, like what happens from sperm and egg, and then what happens, little ball of cells starts uncurling like an embryo does and looks like an alien, and then it's the size of an avocado, and it's crazy to watch. Of course, we're pregnant. Well, we're pregnant. Sarah's pregnant, and I say we're pregnant because it's just easier to talk about. But she has an app that tells us basically what the size of the baby is or the fetus is every. We kind of have this little game like, what do you think it is? How big do you think the fetus is, and stuff like that. And we call the fetus Little Piscetti. Sophia was little guppy because we didn't know it was a boy or girl, and we don't know if little Piscetti's a little boy or girl. So we're going to find out, come Halloween time. But folic acid is absolutely critical. Get back to the story here. You can hear the, okay. Hold on 1 second. I'm being told that the music is too loud. Ladies, can you turn on the tunes a little bit? Sarah's saying they're too loud on the microphone. Okay, yes. Thanks. All right, we'll stop jamming out in here. We're rocking out to some Tycho on Pandora. So, thank you for letting us know that the tunes are too loud. All right. So we were talking about folic acid, but yes, folic acid is absolutely critical for mothers to produce a healthy fetus that doesn't have, the spinal cord hanging out the back of the body. I mean, it's crazy. Spina bifida is the proper term, if I'm not mistaken. Neural tube defects, the spinal cord's outside of the spine, stuff like that. It's crazy to see these pictures. Like when we were studying it, it was like, oh my gosh. There are a lot of things that go into a good prenatal. What I would suggest is if you want a good frame of reference, because there's a lot of garbage out there, look at Everyday Essentials Pregnancy from Nutrition Dynamics, okay? There's a link on our website under supplements to a page where you can get it in case you need it. You don't have to come into the clinic, but it's a really good product. We're in the process of producing our own, but for right now, that's the best one we can find, okay? Let's see. How do you prepare for your body for pregnancy? Okay, wow, that's like a 3-day long conversation. So pretty much assume best case scenario, give yourself 6 months to a year to prepare yourself for pregnancy. Now that's a lot more lead time than most people want to give themselves. But when you understand like everything you've consumed and everything that's happened to your body and all the toxins that have been built up and trapped in your body and things like that, it's really important to understand it's time to clean house. Like right now it's summertime technically, but talk about spring cleaning, there's no more important time. They've done studies on women's, the cord blood from umbilical cord for a fetus, and there's like 200 and some odd different toxins that they can classify. If you can minimize those in any way, shape, or form, that's ideal. Because, let's be honest, bathing in a soup of toxins, it's important to have, yeah, we'll talk about that Wednesday Wellness Minutes. Great idea, Sarah. But yes, so detoxify your body. Coffee enemas are great, coffee colonics. Healthy food choices every day at every meal. Exercise is fantastic, really good for your body. Making sure you get a sweat up when you're working on cleansing things out. Proper sleep. So, eating right, eating healthy. Get the anti-inflammatory guide we have on our website. Sleeping right. Get to bed when it's getting dark. Don't stay up too late. Turn off your phone, airplane mode. Exercise. Morning's best. Get up, move around. If you're not a morning person, get it up at some point during the day. Detoxify your body. Use liver cleansers and things like that if you need to. Most people would benefit from it. Hormone balances. Coffee colonics are fantastic as far as getting birth control out of you if you've been on birth control. Making sure there's no scar tissue from an IUD previously. So you take some enzymes like Therazyme, which is a set of proteolytic enzymes that can help break down scar tissue in the uterus and elsewhere in your body. So there's a lot of different things you can do as far as preparing your body for pregnancy. There are, massages you can do, prenatal massage. You could go see Christine at Honu Bodyworks and Coaching. That's Honu, Hanu. It's a Hawaiian term. I believe it means family, if I'm not mistaken. Shout out to Christine, so she's awesome. Sarah's been to her for prenatal massage, and hopefully when Governor Walz decides that we can get back to living, we can actually have her go do some prenatal massage with Christine, because I know she loves it. I'm sure she'll pipe up here in a second to talk about it. But so yeah, here's the next question. What are coffee enemas good for, and how many should we do in a week or month? So generally speaking, we give people a guide, and that guide says, typically start off with 1 coffee colonic a week for 4 to 6 weeks, and then you do 2 coffee colonics for 6 weeks, and then you back it off to 1 every 6 weeks. Is the general guide for the average person. Honestly, that should probably be revamped. I mean, full disclosure. Yeah. So, yep, Hanu. There you go, Sarah. Sarah, Christine is amazing for her massage and her coaching. So, if you need a coach, check her out. If you need a massage, definitely check her out. So, full disclosure, I do 1 to 2 coffee colonics a week because I know that helps my mood. It helps my skin be healthy. It helps me minimize any damage from the sun, given I don't have any hair, as you can tell. It helps me have a better mood, if I didn't already mention that. It's a hydrocolonic, so it's going to clean out your bowels. It's going to help you cleanse. It's going to detoxify your liver by producing more glutathione. It's going to increase like 400% your glutathione that you produce in your liver. It doesn't have the ill effects of having to detoxify the coffee when it goes into your mouth and into your body. It actually is absorbed through the venous plexus in the colon, and it's gone through what's called the portal hepatic vein, which goes in basically the back door of the, no pun intended, of the liver and detoxifies. So that's what I think is like opens up a trap door. But it's fantastic. I mean, it's just good self-care. Every human being who has endured any part of life on this planet above the age of probably 30, and in fact most of us did more dumb things, not good for our bodies in our 20s, so that'd be a good balance, if you will. So definitely do 1 to 2 a week. Now there's something called the Gerson method. Hi, Melissa. The Gerson method is a cancer healing protocol that they recommend. Basically, it's absolutely like a full-time job. You are juicing all day long, and you're doing coffee enemas all day long. It's really what it amounts to. Like you're doing 5 coffee colonics a day, and you're juicing pretty much like every hour. I don't even know how you, I don't know how you do it. I know we have one participant that comes here that has done the Gerson method before, and it is literally all-consuming. So, yeah, there you go. Shout out to him. He's actually going to chiropractic school right now. So he came in, loved what he saw, realized the possibilities to help people with their health and wellness, and he jumped all in. Psychedel has a question: would it be good for diverticulitis? So think of itis as inflammation. So the diverticuli in your body are these little pockets, and some people have larger ones than others. The diverticuli can get inflamed, so diverticuli plus itis is diverticulitis, which means you have inflammation of your diverticuli. The common thought process in the medical world is like, don't eat fruits with small seeds and stuff like that, which, I mean, like, by the time it gets your diverticuli, it's going to be a small food particle anyway, so the fact that it's like a small seed. So the colon is really more about if you want to go down the neuroemotional side, because if you didn't have any neuroemotional conflicts that were stored in your colon, you wouldn't have any problem with your diverticuli or the foods that you're eating. So I'm feeling soiled, feeling that there's something you have to hide about yourself, being ashamed of something, deep down dirty secrets, dirty things. And it's not that you have them, it's when you're growing up, you were made to think that there was something wrong with you, so you self-evaluated and you thought there was something wrong with you. So now that stress from your brain, from your mind, gets stored in your colon. And then you get this inflammation and it comes on, So anybody who has diverticulitis, we've helped people with diverticulitis and Crohn's. They're many multifaceted. Some people come in with supposedly Crohn's and they have excessive candida overgrowth in their guts. Other people have parasites. It just depends on what you're dealing with. But yes, absolutely. If you want to decrease inflammation, your liver is the #1 house to clean, okay? And coffee colonics can definitely help your diverticuli be less inflamed, and it will also clean out any excess garbage from your colon, shall we say. So great question, Adele. Thank you for piping in there. Let's see. So hopefully that answers your question. Coffee colonics / enemas are great. Yes, do 1 to 2 a week as far as self-care. If you're exposed to chemicals all the time or things like that, do at least 1 a week, if not 2. Average person benefit from 1 a week at minimum. All right. Let's see. Next question is: do full moons bring up and/or multiply parasites in your body? So, of course, today at 3 p.m. is like the highest point of the full moon, and there's supposed to be an eclipse of some sort. Somebody called it a strawberry eclipse or something. Who knows what's going on? All I know is that our daughter Sophia woke up at 3 o'clock this morning, and I didn't go back to sleep after that. So, but I have the luxury of coming into the clinic at 4 o'clock in the morning and doing pulse. The average person doesn't have that luxury, but yes, full moons and it's the electromagnetic interaction between the Earth and the Moon. And when the electromagnetic field gets changed, it can cause disruptions in our bodies. It's just like, it's not the same thing, but it's like the same idea of 5G. 5G and other things like radio waves and 4G and 3G and 2G and 1G, which you've probably never heard about until I got to some. They said, oh, 4G, fantastic, 3G, whatever. But they all disrupt or irritate our electromagnetic field. And when it does that, different microbiome partners, your players in your body, because you have, if you don't already know, if you haven't heard me already say, you have about 50 trillion body cells. So this solid mass here is actually 50 trillion cells stuck together, okay, holding itself together. Now, if you own an appreciation of how big that is, and yes, you could probably start comparing the U.S. debt to that, but if you took every grain of sand on the beach, of every beach of the planet, and every star in the sky and put it together, there's more cells in your body than that all together. Now, the reason I bring that up is because if you understand that there are 500 trillion bacteria, molds, funguses, parasites, and viruses living in you and on you at all times, then you're going to start appreciating that when you get affected by electromagnetic fields, i.e., your rhythm gets thrown off, then your partners in crime, your buddies on the inside, on the outside, your microbiome, your parasites, they get upset. And for whatever reason, lunar cycles tend to cause, wolves to howl and parasites to go crazy and sleep to be disrupted. Okay, and kids are super hyper energetic, and they're very sensitive. Like especially kids under 7 they're all feeling. This part of your brain, this 40% of your behind your forehead, isn't even turned on until you start hitting 7 years old and above. So kids that are under 7, they're all just feeling. They're just sensing your energy. They're sensing everybody else's energy. They're sensing what's safe and what's not safe. They're sensing who's happy, who's sad, who's angry, who's glad, and things like that. So when the lunar cycle's goofy because of these full moons and the proximity of the Earth to the moon, and there's that change in electromagnetic field of the Earth, it will disrupt the harmony, if you will. It will destabilize your harmony in your body, and as a result can cause your parasite friends to be more active. Anyone who, as an aside, anyone related to this, who grinds their teeth is a sign of, kids that grind their teeth a lot is usually they do it at night because they have these little pinworms that can come out of they literally come out of the rectum through the anus, and then like they move around, and then it can cause itching, so the kids are like squirming around. Okay, it sounds terrible, but it happens. Other people are grinding their teeth at night because of parasites. Other people have traumas to their heads, which is related can cause we call it interference field. Interference field is like an injury site. That could be on a wrist, it could be a surgery scar, hysterectomy, a head trauma, tailbone trauma, any kind of trauma to your body. So what can happen is those will affect you negatively, okay? So, at any rate, yes, full moons do affect you. To what extent, it is individualized. All right, now moving on to Hope's questions. Are sunglasses important for eye health? If you are going to stare into the sun directly for long periods of time, or if you're driving down a highway and you're let's say it's late in the afternoon and you're going due west and you've got the sun right in your eyeballs, absolutely. You don't want to strain your eyeballs too much. What's important is if you're out in direct sunlight, you don't want polarized lenses on your eyeballs, because there is science that backs up that when the sun hits your eye, it creates a chemical reaction, which is basically like a natural sunblock in your skin and the melanocytes and things like that. I am by no means an expert in it, but I have read about it, and so it's better to have short-term exposure, typically between 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with no sunglasses on, provided you're not staring directly, like laying on a blanket looking at the sun saying, this is fantastic, with your eyeballs open. It's important to wear sunglasses if you're staring into it directly, but you don't want to wear them too much, because then you're going to disrupt your body's chemical reactions and things like that. As far as it wants direct sunlight, and you don't want to, it's not enough to just have it come over the top of the glasses and around the sides. It needs to be direct. And I'm not talking directly staring at the sun, I'm talking about the rays coming in directly into your eye, okay? So yes, sunglasses can be helpful, and they're important for your eye health if you are staring into the sun for lengthy periods of time. Other than that, be mindful that not to wear them when the sun is overhead and you're in direct sunlight, because that will help your body heal. Pardon me, kick the camera there. Looks like Debbie has a question. Is there a coffee enema you recommend? Well, if you've heard me say before, one of my mentors, Dr. Steve Irestone, says the best part of waking up is Folgers in your butt. But do not put Folgers in your butt. Please do not. That would be a terrible idea. That's really bad coffee. But we use Premier Research Labs organic coffee from Costa Rica, vacuum packed on the site. And what I do is I keep it in the freezer because you want to keep it away from light and heat, and you only grind it when you need it. So, Deb, if you want to get a bag of the Premier coffee, it's fantastic. Anyone who's on any pharmaceutical drugs, those bioaccumulate in your body. They get stored in your body, and they need to get out of your body. And if your liver can't keep up with the dosage you're getting 1 to 3 times a day, then you're going to have toxic buildup over time, guaranteed. So coffee colonics are great for getting these things out of your body at a faster rate than your body can get rid of them, because at some point you're reaching a critical mass and you can't keep up with the pace of which you're putting them in. Okay? Next question. Can being too healthy be unhealthy? Like being obsessed? Well, yes, absolutely. There is such thing as too much of a good thing. If you understand that you can drink too much water and die from that, or I don't think you can consume too much air. That would be a strange concept, but too much of a good food for you can be excessive. Too much water for you is excessive. Too much exercise is excessive. Our ancestors used to be hunter-gatherers and roam and be nomadic, if you will, and go out and, for example, someone hunting a deer for food, they would, creep up on the deer and try to spear it or shoot it with a bow and arrow or something like that, and then they would chase it. And animals don't just like flop over unless you, of course, you get like a lung shot into the heart shot and or a head shot, and they just drop like a fly. So they typically had to chase these things, and they'd chase it and they'd have to let it bleed out or lose its wind, and it would usually bed down somewhere, and they were expert trackers and things like that. So they would run and stop and sprint and stop and sprint and stop, and they wouldn't go out for a jog. Like, I can guarantee you, I shouldn't say guarantee, because there are no guarantees of life except death and taxes at this point. I'm pretty sure that no Native Americans were out jogging along the plains for fun. People did not do that because they had plenty of exercise, out hunting and gathering. I mean, it just wasn't part of the what we did. But I don't know if it was Jack LaLanne or who popularized jogging, but it wasn't a thing until I don't even know if it was the 60s. Maybe it was the 50s. Hard to say. I'm sure someone could comment about that. But yes, being too healthy is unhealthy. Being obsessed about your health is unhealthy. But being obsessed to find the right mixture of things for you is not unhealthy. So it's important to be willing to do what it takes in order to get the balance you need and get you the health you want. But you don't want to if you're people that exercise 4 hours a day, now I would consider that excessive, and I would consider that probably detrimental to your health over the long term. You might be able to do it for a while, but you're going to have a hard time doing that. I mean, I remember looking back to college when we were doing football, we had 3-a-days. Like, we didn't lift much during 3-a-days, but you definitely had to lift. Actually, no, we lifted very heavy intense during 3 days, but we didn't lift as much during the season. We only had like 3 days a week during the season, and then it was like 6 days a week during the preseason and postseason. So having 3 practices, one with pads, one in just shorts and a t-shirt, another one with helmet and shoulder pads. Like, we were doing excessive amounts. I think that is way too excessive. I think you can get a lot more done with less. There's even people who talk about go slow to go fast. So if you understand that you can do too much exercise, there's no question you can do too much exercise. So yes, answering Hope's question, you can be unhealthy by being too healthy. Have balance. I like a 95-5 rule. Like, 95% of the time I'm doing everything I can to maintain optimal health, and 5% of the time I might dip into something that I know might cause some inflammation. But I know I do that knowingly, because I'm like, okay, 95% of the time I'm over here doing things. Like, if this is the line of health, and like disease over here, health is over here, like I'm over here, or over here, somewhere over here. And then if I happen to dip one step this direction, it's not hard for me to recover because I'm way over here. So if you have that philosophy, you can deviate from your things without too much concern. But definitely don't be obsessed. Don't take things too seriously. I mean, I tell that to myself all the time. There's the old joke, don't take life too seriously, no one gets out alive, which is really important to remember. I remind myself of that all the time. Okay, Hope's last question here is, how can you make sure your body is absorbing the nutrients you give it? Well, that is a great question, Hope. And basically what you want to focus on or consider focusing on is what's your energy like? What's your stamina like? How well are you maintaining that energy? How well do your bowels function? How clear is your mind? And when you think about absorbing the nutrients, it's all about coming to the gut, okay? So 2 indications that I would say right off the bat you can check on if you want to know if you have healthy guts and whether you're absorbing your food. Well, there's a bunch of them, but we'll start off with undigested food in your stool. That's a clear sign you're not digesting things. So chew your corn more, make sure you're chewing up your seeds and nuts more and getting them chewed up. So chew your meat longer, 40 chews and that, something like that. So if you're getting undigested food in your stool, that's a sign you have, not enough digestive capabilities. Lack of energy, even if you eat, that's a sign you're not digesting your food and not getting benefits from it. Having your skin be brittle or really easily injured. Having your fingernails or your hair be really thin and brittle. That's a sign you're not getting mineral absorption. Gas and bloating is a sign you have digestive issues. And those are all going to be indications whether you're going to absorb your nutrients well or not, because if you're getting any of those symptoms, that's a sign you're not absorbing your nutrients, okay? Another one would be alternating bouts of loose stool and firm stool, like diarrhea. People call it diarrhea, they think of it as loose stool as diarrhea, but diarrhea is really like 7 to 9 times bathroom a day. That's like diarrheal disease. Loosening of the stool is a sort of different thing, but people associate loose stools. So loose stools, your body's dumping toxins out. Constipated or hard stools is your body's dehydrated, and probably there's lack of control somewhere in your life and things like that. But alternating bouts of diarrhea and constipation, if you have a really loose, really skinny pencil type stool, that would be involving a spastic or inflamed colon. So these are all indications that you can use as guideposts or guide wires to understand whether you're absorbing your nutrients or not, okay? So that is the end of the list of questions for today. I had a couple pop up there. It's great. Appreciate Deb and Dell and a couple other people contributing to the conversation here. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them on here. Otherwise, probably just wrap it up for today. It's just about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I know everybody's got a lot of things to do for their days today. So give it a couple seconds here for you to type in any questions. But other than that, we just want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Get outside and enjoy the weather wherever you are. And even if it's not nice out, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad preparation. So get your raincoat on, get your poncho on, get your snowshoes on, wherever you are, if you're up in the Arctic or something like that. But most people in the lower states are enjoying summer. Some are really hot, some are not so hot, it just depends on where you are. So with that, since nobody's typing any questions, we're going to sign off for this Friday live Q&A. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Deb. Have a wonderful weekend. So best wishes to all of you, and have a fabulous weekend. We'll look forward to seeing you next week for the Wednesday Wellness Minutes, and we'll connect then, all right? Take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody.